as an enterprise architect, I'm happy to use any model that's around and if it'll help me solve a particular problem. And one of the most interesting models I've come across is also one of the very oldest. It's several thousand years old, the old Chinese 5 elements model. And here's a real example of how I used it in a live problem about conflict resolution. This was a place I'd worked at where it was essentially a research lab, but full of scientists. And someone needed to bring a bunch of engineers in from another area, another department. And they said, they'll all get on fine, they're all technical, they'll get on like a house on fire. Well, they did. Flames, explosions, loud shrieks and anger. It was definitely got on like a house on fire. The point was that there was a natural clash going on. And one of the things that illustrated it very well was the Chinese 5 elements model. Wood, fire, earth, metal, water. In essence, the scientists were wood. They were all ideas springing up, new ideas coming up all the time. The engineers were metal. They want to get things done now, urgent, get it done, get it done. Fundamental clash in the way they were looking at the world. And again, in Chinese 5 element terms, wood eventually fractures metal, stone in the original, but metal chops down wood. We can see straight away which one's going to win. And that's going to cause huge damage to the organisation. So again, using the 5 elements perspective, how about filling in the gaps? And the gaps were, we've got wood clashing with metal. So what's the other ones? Fire, earth and water. Fire is about the explosions, about the flames, about the arguments. Earth is about settling down to a plan, settling things down. And water is about how things come apart and start and rebuild to start and feed the new. So what we did was we said the clash is natural, it's no one's fault, it's inherent in the way that they look at the world. So what we need is to recognise that there is a natural clash here and acknowledge that the conflict is inherent. So we've got to deal with the conflict, we shouldn't be trying to shut it down. The next was looking at how the plans worked, and the particular clash area was about scheduling. The scientists kept on changing what they were giving to the engineers just as the engineers were about to start. It drove them mad. By agreeing a different type of scheduling where everyone could see what was going on, and the scientists had some room for manoeuvre but not randomly changing things. That kept the engineers happy and still gave the scientists the flexibility that they needed. And going the other direction, the output from the engineers' work was a set of engineering reports. We got those restructured so that they would more naturally fit with how the scientists worked. It was much more structured, much more accessible, much more reusable, rather than just an end report and that's that. So it became each one fed the next. So each of these things, the wood fed the fire, the new circumstances, but we had a structure in place to deal with the clashes and acknowledge what they were. Fire comes to ash, to earth. That was the scheduling, the planning that went there. Once we got clear on how the scheduling was to be managed, the earth fed the metal, fed the stone. It kept the engineers happy in their work, and the output from the engineers produced the end results, which now fed into the scientists' work. It became a virtuous, supportive cycle. So even a very old model like Chinese 5 elements can be really useful in an enterprise architecture environment. Thanks for watching. Do look at the YouTube description for links to further detail. And don't forget to subscribe for other videos and also to support us on Patreon to help us produce these videos and the tools themselves.